Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're just about at 8:30. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian, and I'm an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday here at St. Paul's Lutheran Church. That's 301 North Main Street in Doylestown, PA. The food and the fellowship for this group starts at 8 o'clock, and the speaker comes on at 8:30. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday, 7 p.m. to 7:30. Feel free to come early and join us if you want to get involved with this group. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others can benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone that's new at this meeting for the first time or visiting from out of town that would like to introduce themselves on a first-name basis so we can welcome you? Yeah?
Hi, my name is Isabel. I'm an Alabama. I've never been here before, but I'm happy to be here.
Awesome, Isabel. Welcome. Yeah.
Hi,
Kira. Welcome. Yeah. Welcome. Anybody else? We got everybody? Perfect. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with a working knowledge of the 12 steps and who is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. So we got plenty of people willing to sponsor. If you are new, you're just trying to come around, grab one of those people after the meeting. There'll be a whole group of us hanging out. We'd love to talk with you, get you some phone numbers, recommend some meetings, get you into the solution a little bit. Are there any announcements from the floor for the good of AA? Anybody got anything? Yeah.
Jeff, alcoholic.
Jeff.
Courtesy group back at AA at Virginia and Dill in Courtesy is having a Halloween costume party dance on October 26th from 6 to 11 p.m. So come on out, fun and fellowship. It will be $10 at the door, and we're going to get back to the church. But other than that, just come on out and have a great time. If you can dress up, there will be a costume contest.
Nice. I got a flyer for that too. I'm guessing Jeff does, so you can see one of us after the meeting if you'd like the information for that meeting. Yeah.
Hi, Sisters Alcoholic. We have the Long Timer Breakfast coming up, and I have tickets for that event. Last year it sold out. It sold out pretty quickly. It's a lot of fun. It's on a Sunday, October 20th, and it's breakfast, so it's 9 in the morning until noon. And 4 speakers, they draw their names out of the hat, so it's a pretty lively, high-energy event. And it is held at the Old York Road Country Club in Ambler. I'll hang around a little bit after the meeting in case anybody wants a ticket. $30 a ticket. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Scissors. Anybody else have anything? Okay. A couple quick announcements from this group. This group does have a sister group, which is a big book study meeting. It meets every Thursday at 7:30 right up the road here at Salem UCC Church. That's 186 East Court Street, also in Doylestown. The coffee for that meeting's on at 6:15, so again, feel free to show up early and join us. We do have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and CDs to help those who cannot afford them can put their donations in that jar on the back table marked Big Book and CD Donations. All CDs are available free of charge. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown. We post the speakers from this group on there. Also speakers from a Monday meeting we have at 6 o'clock in the room right next to here, which is a step speaker discussion meeting. We also have a Facebook page. You can follow us on Facebook. We post, the speakers we have upcoming, any events or anniversaries from this group. Also, other groups in the area will post events, celebrations they have going on. So it's a good resource to have to stay tied in with happenings in AA throughout the area here. And with that, I believe Jeff is going to come up here. He's going to read our Just for Today prayer.
Welcome home, everyone. I am Jeff, and I am an alcoholic. Just for today, prayer of recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And I am going to turn the speaker over to my friend Will. Just give Will a round of applause, and he's going to read the preamble.
Welcome home. My name is Will. I'm an alcoholic. Alcohol Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Now I have Paul to come up and read the 12 Steps to Recovery.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home. These are the 12 steps of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And let's give a warm welcome for Brian to come back up. Thank you.
Okay, this group does have a 7th tradition. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, we'll see that the basket makes its way around. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, but we do have expenses, and your contributions do help us to cover the cost of rent, food, big books, CDs, etc., so we do appreciate it. There's absolutely no smoking on the church property. It's the church's policy. We have a good working relationship with the church. We get this beautiful facility to hold our meeting in every week. They just ask that we keep the premise clean, so just be considerate of that as you're coming and going from the meeting. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now to introduce our speaker for tonight, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group on loan to us from the Working with Others group of New Jersey. Please help me welcome Rob V.
Rob, alcoholic. And it's only been through the grace of a kind and loving God, strong sponsorship, the 12 steps, 12 traditions, and active participation in my home group. I haven't found it necessary to pick up a drink since March 10th of 2009, and for that, I'm very, very grateful tonight. Thank you for having me. And welcome home. I love that. That's cool. March 10th, 2009, I walked into my first AA meeting, and that was a very, if I were to look back objectively now, I could say like kind of a homecoming was very much what that sort of felt like. At the time, I wouldn't say that. I would say I was kind of, doomed to AA. AA is, how embarrassing. AA is where you go when you can't even drink right, it's like, and I was sentenced to AA, And that's what it felt like, you know. And it's funny because it just goes to show how upside down my thinking was, because I couldn't tell the difference between my worst day and my best, you know. And it felt like it felt like my worst day, but it truly has become, I mean, my best day, you know. I mean, I've had a lot of really positive things that have happened in my life, you know, the birth of my daughter, for instance, or even moving to Jersey, or, you know, switching careers later in life. I mean, all these things that, you know, have truly changed my life for the better. But none of these would be possible without a sober life, you know, and without having come into and having found AA. AA saved my life. I love AA. You know, it's good to be here. It's good to be sober. My home group is the Working with Others group. We meet in Nekong and Bud Lake. We have a new area that we meet at. It's the Masonic Lodge in Bud Lake, and but it used to be in Nekong, you know, before the pandemic. We meet on Thursday nights. It's a traditional open speaker meeting, a lot like this, you know. I know some of you guys have been there, and it's you know, one speaker speaking, you know, about, you know, their experience, strength, and hope, talking about how they stayed sober, and you know, about how, you know, they used the big book as a guide, you know, to go through the steps, and you know, there's a strong sponsorship ethic at that meeting as well. And Sunday nights we meet. It's 6:30 in Nekong, and it's kind of a cool format. I haven't been to many meetings like it. We just go around the room and we talk about how we applied the principles of AA in our lives in the week that, you know, previously passed, and you know, and there's something about that you know, that the consistency of hearing this message over and over, you know, I wake up and, you know, I pray, you know, to a God, you know, to try to establish a conscious contact. I meditate to kind of try to, you know, bring that into my life, and then, you know, and then I go on the day and I lose it like that, and then but you know, AA has taught me to kind of catch myself when that happens, you know, through the worldly clamors, and come back and you know, kind of connect, and that's just sort of my days are like, you know. I got guys that call me on a regular basis, you know, guys that I sponsor, guys that pull me out of me, you know, on a pretty consistent basis, because it's when I don't know if you've ever had this experience, you know, if you're in a position where you're working with others now, where you're you know, you're just super busy, you know, thinking about yourself, or I'll speak for myself. I'll be super busy thinking about myself, and then my phone will ring, and I'll be like, I don't want to talk to anyone right now. But I think that's exactly when I need to talk to someone, you know, because there's something that happens here in AA where there's not enough room in my head for me and you. So it's if I have my attention on you, then I can't also have it on me, and I can't be creating those problems within my own life. I'll just kind of go through my story a little bit. I grew up in Colorado. I come from just an average, everyday, dysfunctional family, I guess, you know. My parents got divorced when I was 7, one older brother. We both lived with my mom. And I don't know, he might be an alcoholic too. My dad was, you know. I was always told my dad was. He was the kind of guy, though, that when he had a sufficient enough reason, you know, when he had a medical report that said, you know, he had to stop, you know, drinking, you know, some heart issues and blood thinners, you know, he was able to stop, you know, without AA. He was that guy, and he just lived the rest of his life miserable, you know. It was really sad. And my mom, you know, I think I've seen her drink 3 times. You know, I've never seen her drunk. She did a little Al-Anon, you know, at one point, to try to you know, address issues with my father, but never really stuck with it. And you know, my poor mom got very, very sick, not just from my dad's drinking, but from mine later on. Growing up, like I said, my brother and I, we just went in totally different directions. You know, you know, I kind of lived that life of crime and drinking and other stuff, you know, and my brother became a cop, you know. So we definitely, but we get along great, you know. I mean, we love each other. We're still, you know, family, but you know, it's just same environment, you know, same, you know, essential upbringing, you know, and we just had different outcomes. You know, for me, I was 15 when I discovered alcohol. 15 was just honestly, it was a pretty neat year. I'm not gonna lie, I was a sophomore, and it's the first time I ever ditched class. I smoked a cigarette for the first time. I smoked pot for the first time. I lost my virginity. I mean, my life was just coming together, around 15, and and it was also the first time I got drunk. And my story, it's not very, unique. We were over at my friend Alex's house. His parents were out of town, and we were raiding his dad's liquor cabinet. He had a well-stocked liquor cabinet, but I think he was a drinker too. So we were instructed to not make it obvious that we were raiding the liquor cabinet. So what we did is we got one big tall glass, and we just took a little bit from each bottle, and made my first mixed drink. And I have no idea what was in it. What I do remember, what stuck out in my memory, is that it came out green for some reason, and we got in a circle, and we did that thing where, you take a couple drinks, and then like a Pepsi came along afterwards to chase it, and it just went around the circle a couple times, and I don't know, 10, 15, 20 minutes later, what happened to me is like this whole lifetime of fear that I didn't even realize I was living in just melted off of me. And for the first time, I felt like I could come out and I could play and I could interact with my friends, my closest friends, without worrying about and overanalyzing the situations, and not worrying about what are they thinking about me? What am I thinking about me? How am I measuring up? All this stuff that this trash in my head that I didn't even realize was always going, until the volume went down, and then I just kind of was relieved of the bondage of self, you might say, and I was able to come out and just play, and none of us had really strong alcoholic role models to look up to, I guess, and we just kind of winged it that first night, and we're running around the neighborhood, breaking into cars, and just having fun, and I had a lot of fun drinking, at the beginning, I won't lie, My old grant sponsor used to say, it's like, if you didn't have fun drinking, I think you missed the point, because there's a reason I did it, and there's a reason I did it for the next 15 years. And at first it was because it got me to be able to join the human race. It got me to be able to just interact with people, in a way that everyone else seemed like they were already, interacting. It didn't even raise me above people, It's like, speaking of which, what's with hoisting speakers? This isn't good for my ego. I shouldn't be up this. Anyway, but drinking didn't raise me up to the same level of other people or past other people. It just made me kind of on par, and by the end of my drinking, I couldn't really differentiate, how I felt more normal when I was drunk than when I was sober. It's like it felt like the only normal life I knew. But like I said, I kind of went through all the stages of drinking. At 15, I couldn't drink every day, but I set out to be a daily user. And obviously at 15, it's a little easier to find other stuff, and I did that too. But when I want to say about 7 years before I got sober, I laid all the other stuff, all the drugs and dry goods and stuff aside, and I just put all that time, energy, and attention that I was putting into that stuff, I just put it all into drinking. So when it came time to get sober, I knew where to go, and it was AA, and AA is the only fellowship I've done. I did a little Al-Anon, but primarily it was just AA, and but like I said, there was. I used to say I had no real consequences from drinking at the beginning, and it's funny. I believed that, and I believed that well into sobriety. I was probably about 3-4 years sober, speaking at a podium, and I said I didn't have any consequences at the beginning, and it just hit me like a 2x4 to the chest. It's like, well, you kind of did. I mean, it's like before I turned 18, I was in and out of 4 different mental hospitals, the drug and alcohol ward. I was a runaway most of the time, from 15 to 18. My mom was either kicking me out or I was running away. I lived in a group home for a while because my mom at one point just turned me over as a ward of the state because, she didn't know how to handle handle me. I had my own cop. It was assigned to me and my friends, Officer Miller. God, what else? I was detoxes, rehabs. I mean, and this is all before I turned 18. I was in a wilderness survival program, and and it's funny because this was just how I lived. This was normal for me. This is what I just had to do to get what I needed and to feel the way I needed to feel. And it's really hard to explain that sometimes to non-alcoholics. But it's like if you felt the way I felt on the inside when I'm sober. And compared to how I would feel when I, just take a few drinks, it's like I figured everyone would understand. But here's the thing: not everyone has the same experience I do. When I drink, it's like I have a unique relationship with alcohol, and I didn't know that. Like when I was drinking, I think the conversation went as far as, "Hey, you feeling it? Yeah, you, yeah," and it's like, but I didn't realize that other people and I were having different experiences with alcohol. I was probably in my mid-20s or early 20s really when, I'd really started, people were starting to question my behavior a little bit more. My poor mom, she's lost a lot of sleep over me, People were starting to ask me those like really hard questions like, "Hey Rob, are you drinking as much water as you are beer?" Or like, "Hey Rob, you having a little trouble with your drinking?" It's like, not really, At any rate, around 24, 25, I decided, it's like maybe time to try to get my life on track. I didn't intend to party my whole life anyway, some of those questions, those hard questions were kind of getting to me. So I decided to go back to school, and I went to art school. I went to this art college up in Dover, New Jersey here, and that's what brought me out to the East Coast. And I was always a good artist, I was like one of the best artists in my class, and then, I'm like, obviously that's what I'm going to do. And then I go into this school, and everyone was the best artist in their class, and it was like super competitive, and all those thoughts in my head, like, geez, how am I stacking up? What are they thinking about me? What am I thinking about me? Will I be able to even make this? And all that came rushing back, and I knew how to turn the volume down on that, and it was just with a few drinks. And I came out here with a firm resolution to quit drinking, to just buckle down and just focus on school and a career, and that quickly was supplanted with this idea. It's like, it's college, it's like you're supposed to drink, you're supposed to have fun. So it was that quick, and I found, it took me all of a couple hours to find the nearest liquor store I could walk to, and commence to kind of drink pretty much every day. And it's like I said, it was college. Everyone's doing it, and they were doing it more on the weekends, and not everyone, but but I was drinking before, after school, and things like that, and I didn't even notice, that I was kind of standing out apart from other people in that sense. But I also thought that alcohol kind of fueled my creativity, and so I was able to, do well in school. I graduated with a high GPA and everything, and pretty much drinking the whole way through. It was my version of a functional alcoholic, I guess. And I got a job the day I graduated in my field. I met a girl shortly thereafter in a liquor store, and and it was a match made in heaven, I tell you. And she. It was funny. She used to joke. She said, "I thought you were stalking me. You would come in 2, sometimes 3 times a day. And stalking you, yeah." I was always buying alcohol. I mean, it's like she was surprised to find out I was an alcoholic. It's like the clues were there, But to be fair, I did used to spread it out. I'd go to different stores or whatever to buy it. So it's like I didn't want to tip anyone off. And but once I kind of met her and was I guess that was my version of courting. It was just going in there a lot. And but anyway, stalking, alcoholism. I don't know what it was, but she ended up pregnant. And what I had then was a time limit. I had 9 months to really get my act together. And after we got together, what I found was she really didn't like alcoholics. She was a drinker, but like, you know, I think the way I was drinking was sort of scaring her, because her dad died of alcoholism when she was 12, and her mom too, like, really didn't care for the way I was drinking either. I think it was a little too familiar for them, and I set out to really control and my drinking and stop, and what I found is I couldn't. You know, what I found is I could go about 3 days. One day was no big deal, you know, that was just recovery time. But after a couple days, I'd get a little restless, you know. After 3 days, I'd get a little irritable, you know, and it was just I'd always find some trivial reason to drink again, you know. And she was getting more and more worried, and people, you know, my job and her family, you know, they're starting to ask me, you know, some really hard questions like, "Hey, Rob, you having a little trouble with your drinking?" And I had to, I don't know, not really, you know. Anyway, what I found is, like, when I set out to quit drinking by the time my daughter was born, is the day she was born, I was drunk, you know. I was at the hospital, but I was drunk, and there was even a point where I was about to, I mean, I was like, you know, dehydrated. I was, you know, withdrawing, and, you know, I was about to pass out, you know, and they had to give me some juice. It was very, very emasculating, but they had, you know, just to prevent me from just you know, being overwhelmed with emotion and detoxing and stuff, and even that amazing day in my life wasn't enough to get me, you know, to quit. And in fact, I used it as an opportunity to celebrate, you know, and you know, and she started asking me, you know, like I said, in the big book there's this line, you know, The Doctor's Opinion, where it talks about frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices, and when I read that, I knew exactly what that meant in my life, you know, my story. Because I remember the day I was sitting outside and I had like a half-finished beer, and she came out and she was just tears, you know, her whole face was wet, just pleading, you know, with me. You know, we were engaged at this point, and she's just pleading with me to stop, saying that, you know, I'm choosing alcohol over her and the baby, and I wasn't, you know, in my heart I wasn't, but, you know, my actions were showing something different, and you know, and she was just. I knew that if I even had so much more as one more sip, like, that was it. It was over. And, like, for some reason that turned into, well, I better at least have one more sip, you know, so, because this might be it. This might be the last of it. And I took, you know, that next sip, and she pulled off the ring and handed it back to me, and that was that. And just like every relationship I had up until that point, I got to choose between her and alcohol always won. And it's not because I didn't love her, and it's not because, you know, I thought that was the best approach. It was just, that's how powerful alcohol was in my life. And that kind of put me in a downward spiral. I had all the friends I had made at school had gone back to, you know, wherever they came from, and all the friends I really had made, I'd made through, like, her. So I was like, all of a sudden I'm finding myself very, very alone, and I'm drinking at home. I'm drinking, you know, I'm existing, one might say, just to drink. And you know, and it's like, where at the beginning, you know, alcohol was something I did every now and then, sprinkled around my life. You know, at this point, life is something I'm doing every now and then, sprinkled around my drinking. And it was really, it had taken center stage, and I was drinking for oblivion at this point. You know, I kind of went to depression. I was drinking about a liter a day of rum, and sometimes beer or wine or something on top. I tried to switch it up, you know, to try to get different effects and or less consequences. But really, what was happening around this time is I'm starting to make really, really poor decisions as a father. I don't know if are there any drunk drivers in the crowd? I was a drunk driver. I was really good at it too. I knew all the tricks. You know, you, like, instead of holding the wheel up here, you hold it down here, and you pull down, and you close your eye, and that, like, helps you go straight. And it's like you take peanut butter to cover up the smell of alcohol. It works. I don't think it works. It works really well. And then you know, it's like none of this stuff's real, mind you. So it's like, if you're new and you're like, oh, you don't write this down. This isn't like real information. But I thought it was like going to help, you know. And I was the guy at the party who would take everyone's keys, you know, and then we'd run out of alcohol, and like someone would have to go, and like, I'll do it. I'm like, I know how to drive, and I just, like, I I couldn't even see what I was doing, you know. And now when you add a newborn infant to that equation, it's a different animal, you know. And there'll be times when I'm the only one watching her, and you know, and that's why I'd buy bigger and bigger bottles to try to, like, you know, because I knew, like, it'd have to last, you know. And it's like, and if I ran out and, like, I'd have to get more, and what do? You know, it's like, you know, let's say my daughter's asleep. Do I wait for her to, you know, go to sleep and like race to the liquor store and back, you know, and before she wakes up, or do I just throw her in the car with me and go there and back and hopefully don't get a ticket, or, you know. And it's like, and I tried both these things, you know, and it's not because I thought these were good ideas. It's just that's just how powerful alcohol was in my life. I remember I was starting to get blackouts around this point. I know some people get them right out of the gate. Some people never get them. For me, it like kind of happened towards the end, and brownouts too, where I was like kind of little pieces of information would sometimes return. But I remember I was like in a brownout one day, and I'm picking her up from daycare, and I would throw in a piece of gum to try to, you know, mask the smell a bit, and I'd beeline it in and out, and hopefully no one would catch me. And it's one of those days, and like I said, I was just in and out of consciousness, and I remember putting her in the car, and I remember taking her out of the car. I don't even remember the drive. But what I remember when I was taking her out is like I'd forgotten to buckle her in, and, you know, and that's hard to this day, you know, to know that I put her life in danger like that. And I remember like one day I was just lying there, and I was the only one watching her. I was doing my best to stay up, but I was just like, I was so close to passing out, and you know, and it got the best of me, and I woke up, and like she was using me as a jungle gym, basically. She was just crawling all over me, and I woke up just in time to catch her head before it hit the floor, and that was like kind of, I had this little moment of clarity, you know, that it was basically, it was this idea that it's like, she's not going to grow up and call me like hero or dad, you know. She's going to be calling me like a-hole or drunk, you know. And that things got a little darker then, and that's when I like started thinking about suicide, and I somehow had insurance and a license and a car at that point, and I had full coverage on my car, and it had like a death and dismemberment thing that like would pay out $10,000 if I died in a car wreck, and if I had my seatbelt on, it'd be $20,000. And I'm trying to come up with a plan of how I can make this happen, because I thought that was the best I could do for my daughter. You look really worried. I didn't die, I promise. This is spoiler. What happened is I didn't have enough courage to do it. So what I would do is I'd get like a little liquid courage, you know, and I have a few drinks thinking that would help. But what would happen is I'd get like a little sense of ease and comfort, you know, from taking a few drinks, and I didn't want to die, you know, at least for that moment. So in a perverse way, alcohol was keeping me alive at the end too. I couldn't even see how selfish that was, you know, that like, my disease is just like, it's just rooted in selfishness, you know. And you think about roots, right? Those are underground. You can't see them, but they're feeding the whole system. The selfishness was feeding that whole system, and self-centeredness. And it's all I can see is me, you know. I can't even consider someone else's point of view. I can't even consider other people. I mean, like even to this day, self-centeredness. That's the thing that still pops up, man. It's like, you know, it's like I'm in the middle of everything everywhere I go. And it really takes something like God to get me out of that. It takes God to pull me out of that point of view, to allow me to be, instead of self-centered, to be God-centered. And that's where I can see other people, you know. And the steps in AA helped me to get there. But here's what happened. I was picking up my daughter drunk from daycare again. It was a Tuesday. Show up around 5 o'clock. And side note, it's like, it's really hard to explain to a non-alcoholic why you have to drink on a Tuesday and why you have to be drunk at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday. I mean, I see a lot of people nodding your heads in here, and it's like, we get it, but to explain to a non-alcoholic, it's like, obviously you have the weekend, that's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's a gimme, and Monday's like recovery day, and, Thursday's warm-up day, and Wednesday's hump day, but there's no reason to drink on a Tuesday, but I did, and I was, and I'm picking up my daughter, and, excuse me, and, from daycare, and go stumbling in, and this, the director of the daycare, she's this little, 4 foot something, older, like Italian pistol, she just comes out, she's like, just stop, you are not picking up your daughter in this condition. And I'm like, and I'm arguing with her, I'm like, oh no, it's fine, I'm not that drunk. And she's like, just like, stop, Rob, let it go. And it's like, no, I just had, some wine with lunch, it's no big deal. And it's like, I've been drinking vodka all day, and she's like, Rob, let it go, let it go. I'm like, I'll take back roads, it's fine. And she's like, Rob, let it go, let it go. And I did. And that was the last day I drank. And that's impossible for a guy like me. I was a guy who drank every day no matter what. And all of a sudden something just happened in my life that for whatever reason, it's like God put his hand down and he said, there's a line you don't have to cross. And it's like, I had resigned myself. Like I said, I couldn't go more than a few days. I just accepted that I was probably going to die drunk. Like Bill said, I just gotten that endless procession of thoughts who had gone before me, right? It's like, and I had done that. I was in line to die as a drunk guy, and that was to be my life. I wasn't happy about it, but I accepted it. And like all of a sudden this new something was like piped into my system, and it was just this thought. It just said, maybe, Rob, it doesn't have to be that way. And I entertained that thought. From that day to this, I haven't found it necessary to pick up a drink. And like I said, I was a guy, I'd be driving to the liquor store after a firm resolution to not drink. I'd be driving to the liquor store crying, knowing I was about to drink, not wanting to. I put a bottle down on the counter, and I remember like the teller, he'd be like, you okay? And I'd be like, no, and just hand him the money and leave. And like that's where I was at the end. It was really dark, really lonely. It was the type of loneliness I still have trouble putting words to. And it's like, what's it like to be enough? It was like I said, I could do one day just fine, Sometimes I would have to do it one day, if I drank really heavy, But 2 days was like, I heard a speaker once say, it's like there was a little pebble in my shoe. And like, I don't know if you've been on a hike where there's a pebble in your shoe, it's like it's no big deal at first, but you go a few miles, you start to really notice it, and you go a few more miles and it becomes a boulder, And that's what it was like for me. And like, in day 3, it's like, everything just gets undone. And heard another guy say, it's like, I don't even think there's anything wrong with me at 3 days sober, But I think there's a lot wrong with you guys. I get out on the road and it's like, when I moved out to Jersey, I had to completely relearn how to drive. People drive like idiots in Jersey, especially on 3 days sober. I go to work, and I get to work and my boss is being an idiot, and like actually all 3 of my bosses are being idiots. I have 3 bosses and they're all telling me to do something different, because they're idiots and won't talk to each other. And then so I put in, work a solid 4-hour day, and I head home and I get back on the road with all these idiot drivers, and I get home and I'm still living with my daughter's mom. We're trying to finish out the lease, and she's home, and she's like, as soon as I get in there, she's like, I'm sober 3 days, and she's all like, hey, you gotta go get some diapers for the kid, we're out of diapers. I'm like, what were you doing like all day? It's like, she's being an idiot, she could have gone out at any point to get them. It's like, whatever. So I go to the liquor store, I go to the grocery store, and I'm walking in there, and it's like, I'm going to just gotta get one thing. I'm walking down the aisle where the diapers are, and there's two ladies coming like side by side with carts, talking to each other, and like being total idiots. Neither one will move, so I have to go all the way around, get what I need. And I go into the express lane. And the person in front of me is an idiot because they have 14 items, and the 12 items are less that lane. I know because I counted it twice. The teller's an idiot because she won't like it. She's actually ringing them up. She won't get the manager or nothing. I finally get through, and then like I'm walking out. I just gotta get these home, and then like I look up and I see the sign. It says ShopRite Liquors. I'm like, I promise, but screw it. So I go in there, and I pick up a bottle and get some rum because I'm a rum drinker. I'm a pirate. Get up to the counter and one of those little old ladies from before. She's checking 9,000 lottery tickets. And you know what? I hope she wins. She's sweet. Anyway, I pay for what I need. I get into the car and I just do the beep with it, like cap goes flying off somewhere in the car. I won't need that. And I take a big old drink and I get home and she's like, "You promised." Asked me that hard question. "Hey, Rob, you having a little trouble with your drinking?" Not really. No, not really. My problem was before I had that drink. My problem was driving around in New Jersey. My problem was my boss and the girl and everything else and all the idiots. And it's like, what I found is when I take a drink, all the idiots, like, they go home. And the regular drivers come out. So how is alcohol how am I having a little trouble with my drinking? Drinking seems to be the solution to my problem, I'm not a problem drinker. I'm a problem solver. And, life was the problem, and alcohol was my solution. Now, I didn't have the language for that before I came into AA, and I think that's what got me in so much trouble, I think if I could have described that, they could have, done something kind and just, locked me up, and it would have been fine. But, that kept me drinking for, 15 years, that whole mindset. But like I said, to kind of speed back up to where I was at the daycare picking up my daughter, and I went home, and I remember I didn't quite, I'd already triggered this allergy, this phenomenon of craving in me, and I still had more drinking to try to get through that night. I don't know how much more I had. I was, like I said, in and out of a blackout. I know at one point I ended up at a pizzeria, I hear, yelling at the people that I was no longer allowed to pick up my daughter from daycare, and they didn't care. In fact, they insisted that I leave or they call the cops. And that, I only found out about that story because someone who I know, I still have no idea who it was, but someone I know was there, and word got back to the family. And I apparently was hungry, and since I couldn't get pizza, I think I got a burrito because I woke up with a lot of burrito on me. And I remember before going in, I parked my car and I had little airplane bottles of vodka that I was drinking because I could drink those while I was driving. And I remember I took a drink and I spit it back into the bottle and put the lid on. I couldn't swallow it. It's like I had enough, I guess. And I threw it down on the floor of the car, and I went inside and went to bed, and haven't had a drink since. And the next day I went in to talk to the director of the daycare about, things. And she never called the cops. That wasn't even the first time that kind of thing had happened. It's that was the first time they caught me on the way in. Usually they'd catch me on the way out, or the next day they'd say something, but they never called the cops. They never called DIFUS or anything like that. And she sat me down in her office, and and I found out why. She started to tell me a little bit about her brother, and her brother was an alcoholic, and she was explaining what his drinking was like, what it was like in their family, what it was like for him and his health, and it's everything she was saying about him was it was so familiar, it's I could see myself in it, and and then she explained that he had gotten sober, and he had gotten sober in AA, and that he had about 30 years at that point, and she's like, if it worked for him, and that you're identifying with that, maybe it can work for you too, and I had to concede to that, and she's like, and Rob, since you're drinking during the day, maybe you could go to a daytime meeting. That sounds reasonable, And so, I walked into my first meeting. That doesn't feel right even still to say. I was walked into my first meeting. My idea when I got to the door of that church was to run away. It's I can be acting like a total idiot at the store buying daiquiri mix at 3 in the morning for daiquiri night, you know, with like friends and like just causing a ruckus. But like, heaven forbid someone find out I'm trying to get better, you know? It's like, what if I saw someone inside that would like knew me, you know? I was terrified of that. I was really scared. And you know, but what ended up happening is I watched my hand open the door and I walked downstairs and I walked into my first meeting of AA and I had a sense of coming home, you know, welcome home, like you guys say, and that was a very palpable feeling. No one really talked to me that meeting. I sat in the back, I came in late, I left, you know, pretty much, I mean, I didn't know much about AA. I knew I needed to work the steps and get a sponsor, you know, and I knew that from a episode of Law and Order that I watched, you know, that had it, that laid it all out for me. And I knew that there was the one step that I wasn't going to bother with, and that was amends, because that was embarrassing on that episode, you know. People going around just apologizing. I'm like, no, for me. So I was like kind of picking out, you know, I don't even remember what people really said in those early meetings, you know, but I'm like trying to find a sponsor who I thought, you know, seemed like one of the people to ask. And then like I would come up with something to say, and then like the meeting would end and I'd just book it, you know. And if you're at that point where you're starting to work with others, keep that in mind. Newcomers are fast. There's a trick though. When you say the Lord's Prayer, you stand right next to them and you're holding hands, you say the Lord's Prayer, and then when the prayer ends, don't let go of their hand. It's going to freak them out a little, but like they'll start the conversation and they can't run as easily. But anyway, I like I said, I came to a few meetings, and I think I got up to about my 6th meeting, which was as long as I had gone on my own. That was my record for years, and without being like forcibly separated and like, you know, in like a rehab or something. And I was a little panicky, you know. I was because of that, I was like scared to even leave the house. And so instead I decided to sleep. You know, it's like I'd go to an AA meeting and I'd feel safe during the meeting, you know, and I'd feel safe when I was asleep, but the rest of the night, or the rest of the day rather, I just felt like a clenched fist, you know. I was like a scream looking for a mouth, and like I had no solution, you know. It's like my solution was always to drink, you know, and it's like, and that wasn't there, and it's like, you know, now what's my solution to be? What's my solution when I, you know, wake up 3 in the morning, my head's telling me that I suck? You know, where's my solution now, you know? So I said, so that 6th day I went to sleep, and what happened is I woke up just like kind of with a ton of energy. I just woke up, and I still had about 10 minutes to get to the meeting. There was about 7 minutes away, and I'm like, you know, whatever. So I went to this meeting, and small little meeting, and there was like maybe I think 5 people in there, and they're like, does anyone have a topic they would like to talk about tonight? And I'm like, I do. And then I was like, I can't pick up my daughter anymore, and the girl left me, and the blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, blah, all over the meeting. And they're just like, easy there, fellow, you know. And, you know, but they let me talk, and then they went around the room, and each person shared about what they, I guess, thought I was talking about, and because everyone's talking about something different. And I'm proud or happy to say that's the only time I've ever done that at an AA meeting, because that night I met my sponsor. And he taught me kind of how to share at meetings a little more eloquently, or at least differently at the beginning. And like after the meeting, this guy, he came up to me and he started talking to me a little bit about his drinking. Not my drinking, his drinking. And I was able to see myself in it, you know. I was able to identify with what he was talking about. And he started to ask me a few questions and qualify me and see if he felt I was, you know, a real alcoholic. And, you know, again, I don't remember everything he said, but what I do remember is what he did. And what he did is after the meeting, he started taking me through the steps. Right outside the church, we went through steps 1 and 2. And then I went back to his place with him, and he gave me a big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and he told me to read pages 60 to 63 out of the big book, which was all on the 3rd step. And he told me to call him the next day, and we talked about it. And I did that. I mean, I didn't have a lot going on in my life otherwise. You know, I had a pretty wide open schedule, let's say. But what happened is, like, all of a sudden AA started to exist for me outside of an AA meeting, and I was able to connect with someone, and he gave me, honestly, he gave me the greatest thing I think one alcoholic can give another, and that's just a little bit of hope. And I was able to kind of ride that, and maintain it. And I remember when I was reading that part of the big book, the third step promises, where it talks about having a new employer, being all powerful. He provided what we needed, provided we stayed close to him, and performed his work well, and stuff like that. I don't know why I believed it. And I know I stopped really struggling in early sobriety right around then, right, like a weekend. I was able to start working the steps early, and I think that really helped me not struggle. I mean, I still had a lot of things that popped up. I mean, I was evicted in early sobriety due to, the circumstances that I had set up while drinking, and I still had a lot of relationship issues and work issues and stuff like that. But I wasn't really struggling with it. I think I was so grateful. I was beaten into a place where I could follow some directions, not of my own making, because, I don't know, the fight was just not in me. And, I found that that's a pretty common thing to happen with people, especially when they hit that suicidal level. It's like someone comes to me and, they're talking about being suicidal, and I'm like, yes. And they're like, what's wrong with you? And it's because, they're probably going to follow some new direction, and they're going to probably try something that, might change their life. And I know I was. And I kind of took that for granted a little bit. In the big book, it talks about the difference between a real alcoholic and a hard drinker. And the way that was kind of explained to me was, we look exactly the same coming into AA, the real alcoholic and the hard drinker look the same. They have wrecked cars, legal troubles, poor health, ruined relationships, et cetera, et cetera. The difference happens is once we put the drink down, and what happens is as a hard drinker, their life, as long as they're able to put their drink down and keep it that way, their life will start to get better. Whereas in a real alcoholic, they put their drink down, their life starts to get slowly worse and worse, And it's for me to not drink doesn't solve my problem. For me to not drink starts my problem. But when I came in and I started working the steps, I was replacing alcohol with the steps. And so I started to feel better. I started to get better. But I didn't realize that, I didn't make that connection at first. And there was a period where I was well, maybe it's maybe I'm not a real alcoholic, maybe I'm just a heavy drinker and my life is getting better as a result, And so I kind of, very briefly, thank God, very briefly, I started letting up on going to so many meetings and doing all the things, and I was very blessed to have a very, very bad reaction to that, and my life started to get, spiral out of control pretty quick again, and in early sobriety, that was my only real, hiccup I had. I didn't drink or anything, but I don't need to drink to, act out in self, My problem is self, and it's when I'm thinking about me, I'm not also thinking about you and God. And AA teaches me a new way to live, and that's to think about you and and God, and it's and I go through this, I went through the steps, and that really helped clear away that channel, I put a lot of things between me and God. Some people come in to AA and they're they don't believe, and that's totally fine. For me, I was the other part, I was the one who came in. I believed in God. I wasn't religious, but I believed in God, and I thought God wanted nothing to do with me because I did a lot of crummy things, I didn't think I could make my mom cry and look at me the way she looked at me, and God still would want anything to do with me, But what I found is that God didn't actually turn his back on me. I had turned my back on God through self-will, through acting the way I did, and I experienced my spirituality through drinking. I experienced connection to art through drinking. And I thought that I was going to have to give all that up when I got sober. And thank God that wasn't the case. The best work I've created has been sober, and the best connection and relationship I've had with God has happened since getting sober. But you guys had to show me how to get there, And it was through steps in the AA, I did the inventory process, that cleared the way, the stuff that was between me and God, all the guilt, shame, and remorse, all that pile of stuff that I drank at, you know. They became astonishingly difficult to solve, you know, when I came in. That's how we look when we come in. And, you know, and then the amends process got, you know, cleared away the stuff that was standing between me and you guys. And like with those things cleared away, then I could kind of live in, you know, a spiritual way of life. Excuse me. Yeah, let's go there. I'll tell you a couple like kind of little amends stories. Like early on, the first amends I had was to my daughter. I talked about her, so it's like she was 1 when I came in, and she couldn't speak. So like this will be safe, you know. I didn't want, because I'm still afraid of being judged early on, right? So like I'm holding her, and she has like a little binky in her mouth and stuff, and I said what I had to say to her, and really the amends itself was what came afterwards, you know, showing up as a father. And changing, you know, and being someone different, you know, someone that she could look up to later on in life. And, but I said what I had to say, and then and she just she laid her head on my shoulder, and she put her arm around me and just started patting my back, and it's like she understood every word. And it's like such a little God moment. It was embarrassing, but a God moment nonetheless. And the way, and I know people, you know, have different ways of breaking up the amends. For me, I started with the people closest to me, like in my proximity, like in my household, and then I kind of spiraled out to work and to, you know, AA, and, you know, just like kind of work the amends that way. And I've had some pretty powerful ones. You know, I remember my mom was a little tricky. It's like I said, I got her really sick. You know, the people who love us most probably get the sickest. And I didn't know how to fix that, because it's like she would ask me, you know, I would ask her what she needed for me to make things right. And it's like money from her, and it was like, she's like, oh, don't pay me back, it's okay. And it's like, I used to sneak money out of her purse. So like, it was like sneaking money into her purse. It was, you know, that part was easy. But like what about like the sleepless nights? You know, what about, you know, all the, you know, her just wanting a son from like 15 on, you know, I was pretty much out of the house, and she felt robbed of, you know, being a parent. And like, how do I make up for that, you know? And she'd say, well, just, you know I would visit as often as I could, and she would, you know, she would just like be here with me, you know, and I'd want to be making, you know, seeing other friends or whatever when I'm out there, and it's like, I don't know, it's like whatever she needed most from me, it didn't seem like I was able to do it the way she needed me to do it, and we'd end up fighting again, and I just have to keep making these amends over and over, and it was like, I don't know, a few years back, it hit me that, you know, I was kind of doing the math. I'm only making it out to Colorado once or twice a year, or once every year or two. And then, like, you know, my mom she was getting older, you know, and it's like I kind of did the math, and it's like I probably had like maybe 10 chances to get this right, maybe less. And so the next time I went out, I tried again, you know, and I really just kind of put it out, and it's like, what do you need from me? And I did my best to kind of make that happen. And we, you know, I remember this time we didn't fight, you know, and it was amazing, you know. The next time I went out to see her, she had gotten sick, so my daughter and we went out to see her in the hospital and stuff, and she had a bone marrow cancer, and it had left her pretty kind of loopy. She was like kind of in and out, like she had lucid moments, but other moments she like didn't even know where she was. But we were, it was one of her lucid moments when I saw her, and we were, you know, really connecting. And I remember when I was leaving the hospital, like I just had this feeling, it's like, just turn around, you know, and I did. And I went back and I gave her one more hug and stuff, and that was the last time I saw her. I talked to her again. She died a couple months later. And the last words we said to each other were, "I love you." And when she died, there was no unfinished business between me and her. You guys gave me that. That's AA, you know. That's something I'm forever going to be grateful for. You know, my daughter lives with me now full time, and you know, her mom and I never got back together, but we've become very close friends. You know, over the years, raising a kid together. We raised her right after we used the traditions. You know. As a format. Her mom's not in AA or anything. She doesn't know we use the traditions, but we use it. We came up with a plan together based right off these traditions here to, to come up with a way to, to raise my daughter. We have a primary purpose, that we came up with it, like, has my daughter's best interest in mind, and it's like all the same principles, they applied there just as well. And we've done a really good job, Like now my daughter's in whole honors classes and AP classes, and I know we're not supposed to feel pride, right? But I feel pride, fatherly pride. Maybe that's an exception. I don't know, but you guys gave me that too. I didn't know how to raise a kid. I was telling Dougie here. He came up. He's one of my sponsees. He came up with me, and we were talking about learning how to become a parent in AA. Learning from other sober people who are parents in AA, and that's a really cool thing. I learned how to live here. I started drinking when I was 15. I stopped when I was 30. That's half my life, And sorry about that. I guess it's the time to stop, actually. Well, look. So I'll just close with this. I found it nice when I'm allowed to speak. When I go out speaking, I don't even think about drinking, And I found that I built a little bit more insurance against ever having to drink again, if only a little bit at a time, And so for that, I want to thank you guys for keeping me sober another day. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, good evening again, everybody. My name is Ryan, I'm an alcoholic. First and foremost, I want to thank Rob for coming out to our group tonight, delivering an incredible message of hope and recovery. We'll run through a couple quick announcements and then we'll close down the meeting. As I mentioned, the food and the fellowship for this group starts every week at 8 o'clock, so feel free to come here early, enjoy the food we put out. We had a nice spread tonight. If you want to get involved in service with this group, we got service positions available, always looking for help. This group also does service. We got H&I commitments. We have a running commitment every Sunday night. We bring a meeting up to a treatment center up in Quakertown. So if you'd be interested in doing that, going up there, bringing a message of hope and recovery to the front lines, to the sick and suffering, you can see me, see any home group member after the meeting. If you want to do some service work, help us out with some service work after the meeting, we could always use some help putting away the chairs, but most importantly, like I said, there's always a meeting after the meeting, so hang out, feel free to commiserate and enjoy. It's customary for us to thank our speakers. They come here on their own time and expense, so we usually do form a line in the front here, and we thank our speakers personally. Thanks to everybody for helping out with the meeting tonight, to our greeters, our readers. Thanks to Miss Kay for helping out in the kitchen there, and let's thank our speaker, Rob, one more time. If you do care to join us, we have a nice way of closing. We're going to circle up and do the Lord's Prayer. Close down the meeting with a brief moment of silence for the still sick and suffering alcoholic inside and outside of these rooms, followed by our Lord's Prayer. Our Father,